Hi, it's Dawn from Ninja Bunny Crochet. Today I have for us to do this cool granny square bag. I call it Not Your Granny's Bag. This is a really cool tote bag. It's made from 3 large granny squares. It's got some of the traditional granny square stitching done in it, and then some double crochets and some double crochet with some double with a chain stitch in between. It looks super cool. It looks like it could be complicated, but it's really not. It's a very simple bag to make. So let me bring down the camera and I'll go over the yarn and all the tools that you need to make this bag. I used 3 different colors yarn to make this bag. It's all the same brand. It's by Yarn Lane. It's called Impeccable Loops and Threads. You can get this at Michael's. This is the actual skein that I used on this color. This is called Claret or Bordeaux. This is a 100% acrylic yarn. The skein comes in a 285 yard ball. It's a medium 4 yarn. You don't have to use this brand yarn. But I would suggest a medium 4 worsted weight yarn. You're going to need you're going to need 1 full ball. I mean, obviously have some left over. I use like I said, this is the color Claret or Bordeaux. And then I also used the color Pumpkin, which is right here. Sorry about the hair on there. And then I also used this. I used a full ball of this one, but I had a second ball just in case. And this one's called Falling Leaves. This is the variegated that I used. Again, it's the same brand yarn, so I need 3 different colors yarn to make this bag. I mean, you could do it all in one color too, but like I said, I used 3 different colors. So those are the colors that I used. You're going to also want an I 5.5 millimeter hook, a pair of scissors, a yarn needle to weave in your ends, and stitch markers. I used quite a few stitch markers because what I did is I used the stitch markers to hold the bag together while I was stitching it together. You don't have to use these type of stitch markers. You could just use little pieces of yarn, but you might want to have just some scrap yarn that's a different color than your bag, so that you'll be able to see the little pieces when you're stitching it, so you can pull them out. So once you have all your supplies, let's get started. To start the granny square bag, we're going to start with a slip knot on our hook and a chain of 4. You can use the magic ring technique to start your granny bag. I like to use the chain of 4 technique. It's just my preference. You can use whichever method you prefer. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to slip stitch into that first chain that we made to form a ring. Here's our little ring. I'm going to chain up 3. 1, 2, 3. This counts as our first double crochet. So we're going to put 2 more double crochets into the ring to start our first corner. Chain 2. We're going to put 3 more double crochets into the ring. Now I'm working over my little tail. You can work over your tail. You can push it to the side and weave it in later, whichever you prefer. So we're going to chain 2 again, and I'm just going to slide these over a little bit so we have some more room. We're going to put 3 more double crochets in there. Again, we're going to chain 3. Excuse me, chain 2, I apologize. 3 more double crochets. And now we're ready to do our last chain 2, and we're going to slip stitch it to the top of the chain 3. So when you look up, you've got 1, 2, 3, and you're going to go ahead and slip stitch that to the top of that chain 3. So it'd be right here. And of course you're going to pull it back through, which being a little, got my chain a little tight there. So now when you look at your granny square, let's just pull this up a little bit, you'll be able to see your 4 corners, just like that. And you can give your tail a little tug, tighten down that center a little bit. We can weave this in a little more later. Now, how I prefer to work a granny square is I'm going to slip stitch over to the corner. We're going to do 5 rounds of the granny square, just like a traditional granny square. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch 1, 2, and then I'm going to go right into that corner and slip stitch again. Now I'm in the corner and ready to start round 2. So I'm going to chain up 3, and since we're in the corner, we're going to put 2 more double crochets in there. 1, 2, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So your corners on the traditional granny square portion of this granny square is going to be 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Now we're on the side, so we chain 1 and we hop over to the next chain space, which is the corner now. So again, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets, all into that same space because we're in the corner. Once it gets a little bit bigger, you'll be doing a little more on the side than just a chain space. Then we're going to put a chain space in for the side. So chain 1, we're going to hop over to the next chain space, and that's a corner again. So 3 double crochets. Chain 2, and 3 double crochets. And I'll let you go ahead and finish that last corner on your own, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. Finish the corner, and we're on the side, so don't forget to put that chain 1 in there, and then we're going to go up to our chain 3 and slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. Which again might be a little bit snug to get your hook in there, but it will go in. And that is the end of round 2. And you can look at and put your fingers in the 4 corners and you'll see you have a nice little square. So we're going to put 3 more rounds on. So I'll go over this next round with you, and then you'll be on your own to complete round. This will be round 3, so you'll be doing rounds 4 and 5 on your own. So we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. 1, 2, and then into the chain space to get us into the corner. Chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, and 2 double crochets. So that gives us a total of 3, because our chain 3 counts as a stitch. Chain 2, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochets. Sorry, I apologize. 3 double crochets for our corner. Chain 1, and now this time we actually have a chain 1 space on our side, so we're going to put 3 double crochets into that chain 1 space. And all your chain 1 spaces get 3 double crochets. Then chain 1, and now we're hopped over to the corner again. And that gets 3 double crochets. Chain 2, 3 double crochets. And again, we're at a side again. You chain 1, go to that chain 1 space, and put in 3 double crochets. Chain 1, and we're at a corner. So complete this round, and that is round 3. Then you're going to do round 4 and 5, and at the end of round 5 we're going to switch colors, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of round 5. I'm at the end of round 5. You should have 60 double crochets in this round. Now I've snipped off my multicolor, and we're going to change colors. So in this next slip stitch, I'm going to pull up my next color, which is the maroonish color, or the color that's listed is called claret, but it's this maroonish color. We're going to do the next 2 slip stitches with that color and into the corner. Now, you don't have to do this. I like to tie off my ends. I'm just going to do a little knot here, not a super tight knot, because I don't want it to tug on the stitches. Just a little knot so that things don't come unraveled while I'm working. Now on this row, we're not going to be doing the granny stitch. We're going to be doing a solid double crochet row around the outside. So we're going to go ahead and chain up 3. And for the double crochet rounds, we're going to be doing the corners a little bit different. We're going to be doing 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. So since our chain 3 counts as a stitch, we're going to do 1 more double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet to start off this corner. Then the next 3 stitches, we're going to put 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. When we come to a chain 1 space, put 1 double crochet into that chain 1 space. Then 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Then we're going to come to another chain 1 space and put 1 double crochet into that chain 1 space. Let me pull out a little more yarn. Bear with me just a second. Okay. Again, 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. I'm going to continue this pattern all the way to the corner. Then we'll go to the chain 1 space, 1 double crochet into that chain 1 space, and 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. I'm going to come up again to a chain 1 space, 1 double crochet, and now we're coming up in the corner. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put 1 double crochet into each one of those stitches. So 1, 2, and 3, and now we're at the actual corner, that chain 2 space, and we're going to put 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space, chain 2, 2 double crochets. So it's a little bit different than the previous rounds. The corners are done just a little bit different because if we put the 3 double crochets in there, the corners will be a little bulky and your square is going to be wobbly. So you need to only put 2 double crochets into those corner spaces. And then again, continue with 1 double crochet into each of the stitches, next 3 stitches, and 1 into the chain spaces. And continue that pattern all the way around to get back to the beginning. And I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 6. We have 92 double crochets. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch, and we're going to be pulling up our orange or our pumpkin color and slip stitching into the chain space as well. Go ahead and chain up 3 to start your corner, and we're going to double crochet 1 time into the corner because we're still going to use that 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet into the corner for this round as well. So let's do another 2 double crochets, and we've got this corner done. Now stop. We're going to flip over and we're going to tie off our ends here. Not a tight knot, just a slight knot here so that nothing unravels while we're doing our work. I've already weaved the ends in from the previous round, so we're just going to leave those hang. Now this round we're going to be doing a little bit different. This is going to be not a straight double crochet round and not a granny square round. So we're going to chain 1, we're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. Again, chain 1, skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. We're going to continue that pattern all the way around. Now the corners can be a little bit tricky, so I'm going to meet back up with you at the first corner here to show you how to do the corner. I've made it to the corner. I've done my last double crochet. I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and now we're at the corner. We're going to skip this last stitch and we're going to go right into the chain space right here. And we're going to work our corner now. So we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets back into that corner. Then when we start our pattern, we're going to go ahead and chain 1, and we're going to skip that first stitch and go into the next one and continue. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and go into the next and do a double crochet. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet into the next. And this is how all your corners should work out. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round, and we're going to change colors again. We're going to go back to the Bordeaux color, or this claret color, and we're going to be doing another 2 rounds of the double crochet. So I'll meet back up with you at the end of this round. we're at the end of round 7. You should have 60 of these double crochets around your square. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next stitch and pull up our claret color, maroon, Bordeaux, whatever you want to call this color. I believe the package calls it claret. And then we're going to slip stitch into the next chain space. Go ahead and chain up 3 and do another corner, doing it with the 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. And then we're going to go ahead and stop for a second and tie our ends together. I said just lightly tie them together. And again, I already wove the ends in from the previous round. I find it easier to weave them in after each round so that I don't have a whole bunch of ends to weave in at the end of when I'm all finished. So just get some yarn out here. Okay, so now we're going to do a round of solid double crochets. So in this next stitch, we're going to go ahead and put a double crochet, and in the next one a double crochet. And in that chain 1 space, put a double crochet and a double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 into the chain 1 space. And that's how we're going to proceed, going all the way to the corner. In the chain space, double crochet, and in the next stitch, a double crochet. In the chain space, double crochet, and in the stitch, a double crochet. All the way till you get to the corner. When you get to your corner, you're going to do 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet into the chain space. You're going to go all the way around till you get back to the beginning, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. We're at the end of round 8. We now have 124 double crochet going around our square. To start round 9, we're going to slip stitch into the next stitch and into the next chain 2 space. I'm going to start another corner, so I'm going to chain up 3, double crochet into that same space, chain 2, and 2 double crochet back into that same space again. Just our regular corner that we've been doing for these rounds. And then we're going to just put 1 double crochet into each stitch, going all the way around. Very simple this round. Just make sure when you hit your corners that you do 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. And I will meet back up with you at the end of the round, where we're going to change colors again, and we're also going to change up our stitch pattern. We're going to go back and work our granny square pattern again. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 9. We have 140 double crochets around our square. To start round 10, we're going to slip stitch into that next stitch, and we're going to bring up our next color, which is this pumpkin color. And slip stitch into the chain 2 space. chain up 3. Now because we're going back to our granny square pattern like down here, our corner is going to go back to a 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. So we're going to add 2 more double crochets because that beginning chain 3 counts as a stitch, and chain 2, add 3 more double crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to stop and tie our yarn together, our tails. Again, not too tight as to pull our work together. We're not going to pull the work, just a light knot. And we'll weave those in again later. Chain 1, and we're going to skip the next 3 stitches. So here's the first one right here. So 1, 2, 3, and into this next stitch we're going to place 3 double crochets. That's 1, 2, 3. Chain 1, skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and put 3 double crochets into the next. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochets into the next stitch. We're going to continue this pattern, chain 1, all the way down till we get to our next corner, and we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and repeat this all the way around to get back to the beginning, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 10. We now have 120 double crochets around our square. To start round 11, we're going to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches and the next chain space. We're going to basically repeat round 10, so we're going to chain up 3 and place 2 double crochets into that chain space, chain 2, and 3 double crochets to form the corner. Chain 1, and we're going to move over to the next chain space and place 3 double crochets. Chain 1 and jump to the next chain space and 3 double crochets. This is basically your straight granny square pattern. Chain 1, move to the next chain space, 3 double crochets, chain 1. We're going to continue working the granny square pattern. When you get to your corners, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Work this pattern all the way back around to the beginning and slip stitch to join. When we get to the end of this round, we're going to change colors to work round 12, and that will be our last round. I'll meet back up with you at the end of round 11. We're at the end of round 11. we now have 132 double crochets. We're going to change colors, so we're going to go ahead and slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. So 1, and then on the 3rd stitch we're going to go ahead and bring up our new color, which is the multicolor, and then slip stitch into that chain space, chain up 3, and we're going to be doing a double crochet round like we did down here with the burgundy claret color. So we're going to be going back to doing 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the corner. So that's how we're going to start off our corner, because our chain 3 again counts as a stitch. So let's pull up our, and we're going to go ahead and tie these off again, just like we have been doing. And just like in round 6, we're going to work it the same way. So we're going to put a double crochet into that first 3 stitches. And then we're going to come up to the chain space and put 1 double crochet into the chain space. And 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. And 1 double crochet into the chain space. Then 1 double crochet into the next 3 stitches. Right, and 1 into the chain space. So we're going to continue that pattern till we get to our corners, and in the corners you're going to put 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. Please continue this all the way around, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the round. I'm at the end of round 12. You'll now have 188 double crochet around your granny square. We're going to go ahead and fasten off, weave in all of your ends, and we're going to go ahead and sew the granny squares together, and then we're going to make the strap. Okay, here's a little diagram that I drew up. You have your 3 granny squares folded, and you're going to be stitching along the dotted lines. That's where your seams are going to be. Your folds are on the outside of the bag. So here's your bottom, your 2 sides, and your top is open. And when we make our handle, this is where your handle is going to be attached to the top corners. So it's just a little diagram to help you when you're stitching your bag together. So let's get into making that handle, and I'll give you a little bit closer up view of how to whip stitch this seam together. Here's our bag. We're going to fold the granny squares into triangles. I've already sewed one side together. Fold them up and situate them in this type of a pattern. The best way I can tell you how to sew this bag is once you start sewing it, and it's actually really easy, is to take some stitch markers and put your seams together. You connect them on one side of the bag, and then you flip your bag over and connect them this way. If you have it like I do here, where your bag is facing on the wrong side, then you'll be able to just go right ahead and start whip stitching your bag together. Now how I do my whip stitch here, I'm going to start at the top and work my way down towards the bottom corner. I use a slip knot on the end of the yarn, my starting yarn. I'm going to go ahead and take out this first stitch marker here and find that center stitch and line it up with the center stitch from the other granny square. Once that loop hits, that's slip knot, just loop it right through and you've got it tied down. You can weave this end in or you can work over the top of it, whichever you prefer. Then we're just going to go stitch for stitch and go ahead and whip stitch this together. Just like that. And go right down along the seam. And if you run out of thread on this string or yarn on this string, you just tie it off and get another one and start up another one. When you come to a stitch marker, just go ahead and take it out. And just keep going stitch for stitch all the way down till you get your whole seam done. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish this up and then we'll work on that handle. We're going to start with a chain of 50. I'm going to use the burgundy color for my strap. You can use whichever color out of your bag you want. Make sure you have a long tail on the end of your chain because you're going to use that to sew your strap on. We're going to start 4th chain from hook. The loop on your hook does not count as a stitch. So go 1, 2, 3, and 4 with a double crochet. Place 1 double crochet into each chain until you get to the last chain, and in the last chain you're going to place 3 double crochets. So continue working 1 double crochet all the way down the chain till you get your last chain, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the chain. At the end of the chain I have my 3 double crochets in that last chain. At this point you should have about 50 stitches in your piece. We're going to flip our work over and we're going to work in the opposite side of the chain, going down towards the beginning. So we're going to work in the opposite ends now with 1 double crochet into each stitch until you get to the last stitch, and in that stitch you're going to put 2 double crochets, and then we're going to slip stitch to the beginning, to the first double crochet that we made, and go ahead and fasten off at that point. I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. I'm at the end of the row and we're going to go ahead and slip stitch to that first double crochet that we made and go ahead and fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing. Now we're just going to go ahead and sew our strap to our bag and then our bag will be finished. So here's the top edge of the bag, the top corner, and our strap. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this together. So I'm just going to grab some stitches here and stitches on the strap, and just go ahead and whip stitch this together. So then our strap is, this is the inside portion of the bag. Just like this. Now I like to go over it a couple of times just because it's the strap portion, and I want to make sure that the strap isn't going to come undone from the bag. Just like that. You can go ahead and make a little knot. And then we can just weave that end in. And then bring the other side over to the other side of the bag and sew this strap side down. And I'll be right back. And here's the strap all sewn onto the bag, and the bag is all sewn together. So I'll put a picture of this completed bag at the end, just so that you can get a good look at it. So if you've liked this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that bell so you won't miss any of my tutorials. Thanks for watching, and happy crocheting! Bye-bye!